to access it and be able to do trade. But where you come to a market where people bid for FX, somebody is bidding for 380, 390, you don't allocate to him, but you allocate to somebody who is actually bidding for 304. That is a lot of inefficiency. And then you find that even those who have this inflow to bring to us are discouraged from bringing it in because they're going to be forced to sell at a very much lower rate that they can get in the open market. So that will continue to drive inefficiency and improper allocation of our limited FX resource in this country. So that's a major issue. And but I'm just saying that for the MPC that's holding tomorrow, we're
starting today, and we're getting the results.
That's starting today, coming out tomorrow. It's a dilemma. Like Bosso said a few minutes ago, we have come to that point where we see even central bank is looking at the limits of monetary policy. We have come to that point you can call monetary policy exhaustion or fatigue. By the way, Ben Bernanke, the then chairman of Fed, sometime in 2001 said monetary policy cannot be a panacea to every economic problem. And that's Nigeria has hugely depended on monetary policies over the months or years to solve our problems without commensurate support from fiscal policy authorities. So CBN, I don't envy them. As they start this meeting 10 a.m. today to continue tomorrow 9 a.m., I don't envy any of them because what would they be suggesting? What would they be recommending?
Yeah, because some people are asking if there is any new option, any options of any new monetary.
The bad news is that whatever they recommend, the economy now, the indicators of the economy now seem to be indifferent to those recommendations. In any case, when we come to that point, I'll tell you what my mind is. When an economy is in recession, when growth is going south and negative, when things are not happening in the economy, when people are hungry, when jobs are being lost daily, when there is no power to power the economy, when things are just going the way they're going in this country, economic policies, whether monetary or fiscal, must be directed primarily towards driving growth, towards encouraging the key growth drivers of this economy. And we know them: agriculture, solid minerals, and the rest of them. Oil and gas is just there. There's not much we can do until prices get better. But we can see that, just like you announced this morning, that agriculture is a major contributor now to this economy. Almost 30% of the whole economy. So what can we smartly do to harness the potentials lying in agriculture? In as much as you can call this a long-term approach to solving a problem, but every long term, as I always say, starts with a step today. So it's a major issue. As we continue this discussion, I will tell you what my mind is about CRL, MPL, and maybe liquidity ratio.
Maybe this will be a good time for you to tell us because we're wrapping up this conversation.
Okay, now
we've got less than a minute to go.
It will be, it will be inconceivable to continue to increase CRL. So I expect CRL to remain at worst at 22.5. If anything, it should be brought down to 20%. Banks should be able to have some, capital released for them to be able to lend. Even though the banks lending is also now a concern because CBN says when they reduce CRR, banks don't lend to the real sector, they lend to traders who now pursue FX. But they have to sit down with these banks and find a way to encourage lending to the, the real sector of the economy. MPR is neither here nor there. Even without increasing it, government is already lending, taking money at 18% or more. So MPR can be tinkered either way. I suggest that doing it at 14% or even 15% does nothing to the economy. Nobody will actually care because already government issues treasury bills at 18%, which is much higher than the MPR. So trying to fight negative, real interest rate, MPR could be tinkered, stable or upward. But for CRR, it's a no, you can't increase that. But liquidity ratio remains fine where it is at 30%.
Okay.
But generally, every policy that they come up with must, be minded towards ensuring that capital release to run this economy. Even CBN lending should be, we don't have time to discuss that. Banking model.
No, we're going to get you back in the studio for you to talk more about that. But thank you so much for making this conversation more interesting. Oji Udemezu is a financial management and consultant. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, Business Morning continues in just a moment. We're turning our eye to the markets and we'll take a look at how the market is shaping up with all of these results coming in and, of course, first day of a two-day rate-setting meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Closing moments now on the program. Of course, we started the program with the breaking news stories. Breaking news story from the National Bureau of Statistics just released. GDP Q3 figures show the GDP contracted 2.24%. We're starting off the week on a very negative note, and that's from the 2.06% recorded in the second quarter of the year. Of course, for most of the conversations I've had on the program with Ibrahim Babalola of AfriInvest, with Bosin, Business News Editor, and just a few seconds ago with Oji Udemezue, clearly shows that there was no it was expected that the economy would contract further, and by as much as we've seen, 2.24%. Looking at the breakdown, the oil sector contributed about just only 8.19% to total GDP, and the non-oil sector contributed 91.87%, largely driven by activities of agriculture. Agriculture, further looking at the breakdown, shows that it contributed an overall 28.65% to the GDP, and another sector that has been very much in the front burner towards improving the economy was the mining and quarrying sector, and that's actually saw 8.34% for the third quarter. But let's take a look at what the equities market is looking like this morning, what's actually shaping investors' thoughts. I've got Chukuma Anyanwu with me, who's the head of research, GTI Securities, to talk us through the market. So good morning to you, Chukuma.
Good morning, Harriet.
So just take us through the numbers, take us through the market. GDP is out. MPC starts their meeting today, decisions tomorrow. What's driving investor sentiments this morning?
Well, Harriet, you've clearly pointed out what's driving investor sentiments. I think a lot of people are just, for me, I don't think it's market news that the economy contracted further to 2.24%, by 2.24%. What is news for the market is how monetary policy will probably react to this, and what tinkering we'll probably see in either the NPR or the cash reserve ratio. And I think that is how or what will shape the way investors play out. But at the moment, the market is still slightly down. Bearish sentiment still prevail most of the major segments of the market, and I think until we see the outcome of we'll get the outcome of the MPC meeting, I think that will largely be the sentiment that prevails in markets.
But which sectors in particular are you expecting to see heavy movements in today's trade?
Well, major segments that have drawn the market down had from times past have been the banking space, the industrials, the oil and gas segment, and all of those segments are still putting a lot of pressure on the market. And I think, like I pointed out earlier, Harriet, I think it is now on the MPC, to take whatever decisions would eventually have any positive bearing on the economy, because it is not news for market players that we would see a contraction in this economy. The GDP numbers wasn't any news for any major market player. What is news is, or what will be news, will be how the MPC reacts. And I think a lot of people are just taking a wait and see approach until we see how the MPC decisions play out, and I think that will then reflect on how market participation will be for the rest of the week.
So quickly now, just to get your impression of where the market will finish off today, do you think we'll continue to see negative sentiments? Do we expect to see a flattish trade, or what do you think?
Well, generally, I think the MPC should be a bit more sensitive to how the economy is or how the economy is playing out. If you see a further contraction in the GDP numbers, it's clearly an indication, and also for people who have also been paying attention, inflation has continued to uptrend, and I think that's clearly an indication that the retention of the NPR or the further tightening of monetary policy to combat an inflation driven by costs is not exactly working as much as the MPC would have anticipated.
All right.
So I think it's now time for the MPC to take a contrarian view, or have an overview, a review of their decision-making process as far as rates are concerned, and all the key monetary policy indicators, and that would have a major bearing on how market plays out for the rest of the week.
All right. Thank you so much, Chukwuma Anyanwu, Head of Research at GTI Securities, for your perspectives this morning. And that's it on today's edition of the program. Many thanks for staying with us. I am Harriet Agbemi. Have a profitable day.